You hike 2 miles off a gravel road into national forest, find a flat spot, and set up a tent that costs $200 and is covered in the most convincing camouflage pattern the sporting goods store had on the rack. You crawl in at dark, feeling like part of the landscape. And at 7 the next morning, somebody walks their dog directly into your camp like they had the address written down. That happens to people all over this country every single weekend. Here is what nobody at that store will tell you. The person never saw your tent. They read everything around your tent. My name is Thomas Yazzie. I grew up Dene, in the high desert of the Southwest, and most of what I know about moving through country without announcing yourself came from people who treated it as ordinary skill rather than anything special. Today I want to hand you what actually makes a camp disappear, and I will tell you now that almost none of it has to do with what your gear looks like. Start with why camouflage answers the wrong question. Pattern fabric hides you from a pair of eyes at 30 feet. Almost nobody finds a camp with their eyes at 30 feet. They find it from 300 yards with their ears, with their nose, and with plain reasoning about where a person would logically put a tent. A camp is not a thing somebody sees. It is a thing that happens, and anybody paying attention can read what happens. So the work starts long before the tent comes out of the bag. The first decision is where, and the ground most people pick is the prettiest spot available, that flat patch of grass right beside the water. That spot is a trap for reasons that have nothing to do with visibility. Everything in those woods travels to water. Deer travel to it, raccoons travel to it, and people travel to it on trails their feet have been wearing in for generations. Set your camp 100 yards back minimum, which puts a football field between you and the busiest road in that forest. There is a second reason to sit back from the creek that most people never consider. Running water is noise, and noise works both directions. Camp beside it, and you will never hear footsteps coming. The second decision is elevation, and it cuts 2 ways. Stay off the skyline entirely. A person standing on a bare ridgetop at dusk is a black paper cutout against a lit sky, and so is a tent. That silhouette is visible from a mile off. But the valley bottom is worse, for reasons I will get to at the end of this video, and that reason is the single most useful thing I know about staying hidden outdoors. The third decision is the one I would call the quiet genius of it. Camp where nobody has any reason to walk. People follow trails. People go to water. People climb to the pretty overlook. So the hidden camp sits in the one place that offers none of those things. An ordinary flat patch in thick, unremarkable timber, with no trail through it, no water in it, and no view from it. Boring ground is invisible ground, and almost nobody chooses it because it does not photograph well and it does not feel like a reward at the end of a hike. And before you put anything down, stand on your spot and look straight up. A dead limb hanging in a tree above your bed is the cheapest way to get hurt out there, and checking takes 10 seconds. This is exactly the kind of knowledge that never got written down where I come from, which is most of the reason I finally put together Walk Easy, a field guide with every method laid out and the reasoning underneath it, the same way it was handed to me. The campcraft, the firework, the shelter, all of it in one place. It is linked below. Now, the fire, because fire is the loudest thing a camp does. The single most useful fire technique for staying unnoticed is to put it in the ground. Dig a hole roughly a foot across and a foot deep. A handspan away, dig a second, smaller hole, angled so it meets the first one at the bottom. That second hole feeds air to the base of the fire like a bellows. What you get is a fire burning down inside the earth, hotter than an open fire because of the draft, with almost no light showing above ground level and very little smoke. It cooks faster, it uses roughly half the wood, and from 50 yards away in the dark, it effectively does not exist. What you burn matters as much as how. Burn dead wood that is still standing on the tree, about thumb thickness. Smoke is mostly water, leaving wood that is not ready to burn, and wood lying on the ground drinks moisture up out of the soil like a wick. Green wood is full of sap and produces even more. A dead branch still standing, dried by wind, snaps clean and burns nearly invisible. Time it right. An open flame in full darkness carries a long way through open timber. The old approach was to cook in that gray hour when there is still light in the sky to swallow the glow. Cook the meal. Boil tomorrow's water. Then put the fire dead out before true dark. Dead out means stirred, wet, and cold to the back of your hand. And some nights the most hidden fire is no fire at all. Dried meat, parched corn, and nuts require no cooking whatsoever. Carry 2 days of food like that, and for 2 days your camp produces no smoke, no light, and no cooking smell. That is as close to a ghost as a person gets outdoors. Now the shelter itself, and there are 2 things that matter more than color. The first is straight lines. Walk through any stretch of forest and try to find a clean straight edge longer than your arm. You will not find one, because nature does not draw them. The ridge line of a tent, a taut guy line, the crisp curve of a dome, those are the shapes a human eye snags on instantly, even in the best camouflage fabric on the market. So pitch low, tuck the shelter against a downed log or a root ball, and lean a few dead branches and some loose brush across the outline to break it into pieces. You are not hiding color. You are erasing shape. The second is shine. One glint of sunlight off a steel pot will flash 300 yards through trees, because that is precisely how a signal mirror works. Smoke your cookware black over the fire and leave it black. Mind your glasses, your watch, metal zipper pulls, and a phone screen lighting up your face at night. The woods are dull. Be dull. A few more that cost nothing. Protect your night vision. Your eyes need about 30 minutes in darkness to reach full sensitivity, and one blast of a white flashlight resets that clock to 0. Keep light low. Keep it red if you can, and keep it pointed at the ground. A bright lantern in camp does 2 bad things at once, showing you to the whole valley while blinding you to it. Finish your chores an hour before sunset. Gather wood, fetch water, and make the bed while the day's breeze and bird noise still cover you. Once the air goes still after dark, sound carries in a way that surprises people. The snap of one branch at midnight travels farther than an axe at noon. Mind your scent. Wood smoke, bacon, and perfume soap all walk right up to somebody on a breeze. Use unscented soap or none. Cook well downwind from where you sleep, and hang your food away from your bed, which in bear country matters for considerably more than staying hidden. Listen to the birds, because they are already listening for you. Jays, crows, and squirrels announce everything that moves through their woods, and that scolding follows a walking person like a spotlight. When your camp is calm, the birds go back to ordinary talk, and ordinary talk means you are alone. When the woods around you go suddenly quiet, sit still and pay attention. Walk in on hard ground. Soft dirt and moss remember every boot, and if you come and go along the same easy line, you will wear a visible path to your own front door within 2 nights. Enter over rock, over gravel, over deadfall, and change your line each trip. And leave the place the way you found it. Fill the fire hole, scatter the cold ashes, fluff the flattened leaves where you slept. Pack out everything you brought in. Here is what I want you to notice about that last one, because it took me years to see it. The respect and the concealment are the same skill. The camp nobody can find afterward is the camp that honored the ground it sat on. Now the thing I promised you, and it explains half of everything I just said. The moment the sun goes down, the ground begins losing heat to the sky, and the air lying against the ground cools with it. Cold air is heavier than warm air, so all night long that cold air slides downhill off the ridges, down through the draws and creek beds, moving exactly like slow water until it pools in the valley bottoms. That is a river you cannot see, and it is flowing through every piece of hill country in America tonight. Here is why it matters. That river carries things. It carries your wood smoke, it carries your cooking smell, and it carries your sound, all of it drifting downhill and settling in the low ground. Camp in the valley bottom, and you are lying in the pool where every scent and sound collects, which is exactly where the trails and the water and the people are. You will also wake up about 10 degrees colder, because those bottoms are frost pockets. Camp on the ridgetop, and you are a silhouette in the wind. So the answer is the bench, a flat shelf on the side hill, roughly a third of the way up the slope. Up there, the cold river slides past below you all night, draining your scent and your smoke down into empty country where nobody walks, carrying your sound away with it, and leaving you sitting in air noticeably warmer than the creek bottom. That is the whole trick. Somebody standing on a ridge at dawn can point to every camp in a valley, because their smoke sits in the bottoms like fog in a bowl. The camps up on the benches produce nothing to point at. Tell me down in the comments where your people are from, and whether there is a piece of outdoor knowledge in your family that got handed down at a fire instead of bought at a store. I read every one of them. Walk easy out there, and I will see you at the next fire.